Okay, so today we're going to talk about differentiated instruction and what it is. I have never heard of this. Tell me more. So, in summary, it is customized learning. Studies have proven, and honestly, just common sense has proven, that not all children learn the same way. So, this style of instruction is customizing and modifying your lesson plans so that they fit the needs of all students. And these are just a couple of examples of what that could look like. We'll talk about this in greater depth in just a little while. But just so you can get a simple idea, this is some math examples. We have counting blocks, we have regular written addition and subtraction, we have the 10 frame with the counting clickers, and we also have just basic counting on fingers. So these are different ways that children can learn simple math problems. So I think I get it now, but how do I implement this idea? So to incorporate this in your classroom, it really does not take that much. You don't have to change anything too drastically. Um, Something that's been used in schools and has been experimented with a lot lately and has been seeing really great response results is response to intervention using a multi-tiered system of support. So more or less what that is level one is class wide or school wide. This is normally used school wide. And if your school doesn't have this kind of a system, you can still use it in your class. It's just going to be on a lot smaller scale. So, like I was saying, level one is class wide or school wide. This is what everybody learns. They're all learning the same thing, everybody's on the same curriculum. Level two is when you might have to break it up into smaller groups for these students that are still having a bit of a hard time understanding what you were teaching. And level three is the students that still aren't succeeding at level one or level two um, tiers. And this is when you do one on one teaching with the students. Um, you Okay, so next point, modify work to fit specific classrooms or individuals. Do not use the same material every single year. It might have worked very successfully with your last year classroom, but do these materials now work with this year's class? This is a whole different group of students. Or if you are teaching an idea to a student and they just do not get it, think about how you're saying it, rephrase it, maybe consider drawing a diagram, maybe consider using actual props to teach the idea. Um, Another idea is to give options. So I think a lot of people hear differentiated instruction and they think this is for the students that are moving at a slower pace than everyone. That is not necessarily true. It can be for the students that are doing better than others as well. So you could give them an option to test out. Maybe somebody thinks they already know this this curriculum. You can give them the decision on whether or not they just want to take the test in the beginning, and then maybe they can work on a specific project on their own. um, if somebody is struggling, you can give them fewer problems. Of course, they'll have to take the same test in the end as everybody else, but on assignments, instead of giving maybe five addition problems, five subtraction problems, give two of each so that the student doesn't spend all their time struggling and getting frustrated. You can also give the options of whether or not people want to work with partners or alone. Personally, I like to work alone, but I know that the majority of people do like working with somebody else, bouncing ideas off of each other, getting some help. Um, and then lastly, you need to be ready to come up with ideas on the spot. So, another thing that people think when they hear differentiated instruction is that I don't know how I am going to make specific lesson plans for each student. That is not what it is at all. This does not mean more homework for you as the teacher, as the instructor. This just means if you are teaching an idea and somebody doesn't get it, or you're teaching an idea and somebody isn't interested, you can tell them, hey, why don't you try it this way instead? They are still, like I have said before, they are still working on the same thing everybody else is working on, but just with simple modifications. This here is just a diagram of the tiers. I got this from pint.ca.gov. You can take notes on this if you'd like to. It just describes in greater detail what I've already said. Next slide. So, what do I need to change to make this work? So, the three big ideas of differentiated instruction are content, process, and product. So, let's say that you are asking everybody to write a persuasive paper on to the principal. You want the principal to get rubber mulch for the playground rather than sand. Everybody has to write, they have to give like body paragraphs, 3 examples of why it's better. They have to defend their argument. If you see that one student is just not engaged in this whatsoever, you can approach the student and say, hey, why don't you write a persuasive paper about anything that you want to write it on? If you know this student is interested in dogs, say, write this paper on why your type of dog is better than other types of dogs. So, in other words, they are still learning at the same level as everybody else, but you are also keeping them motivated and keeping them interested. They are still doing the same assignment, it's just on a different topic. Okay, and then as for process is kind of what I was mentioning earlier, how you can give the students different options of working with partners or working alone, that sort of thing. Testing out, moving forward, or maybe giving students a little bit more time to work on assignments if they need it, more time than their other classmates. And then lastly is product. You can differentiate product by giving the students a variety of assignments to prove that they know what you have taught. And this might look like, hey, you can write an essay over this, or you can create a poster board. So, how will this look in a classroom? These are just a few ideas. Every teacher, it's different, but you can have stations where students are all working on different things. Maybe somebody finished something already and so they want to work on something different, or maybe a student needs more time so they're going to work on that thing at one station. This can also be groups. You can make groups in your classroom, or you can have students make their own groups. You can say, this is reading time for everybody else, but if you're having a little bit of problem on your spelling words for the week, come back to the back of the class and we can work on it together. That's kind of like the tier 2. And also, this includes having variation in the way that you teach. So rather than just doing lecture, you are going to want to do some hands-on. You might play some videos. You might let kids use laptops. Like I said, not everybody learns the same way. So lecture one day, the next day maybe get the kids involved and have them work on what you are working on, or maybe play a video because some kids are really visual learners. And then lastly, I have here variation in assignments. So that goes back to kind of product. Do not have the students do the same thing over and over again. Do not have every week be write an essay. Maybe have one week be write an essay and have the next week be create a presentation, and maybe have the next week be summarize this by, I don't know, creating a poster board. So these are just some photos of how this will look. So we have group work right up here. We have the teacher doing a hands-on assignment with the kids right here. And actually, this one here doesn't even look like an assignment. It looks like he's teaching hands-on. This is the idea of stations. We've got some kiddos working on laptops over here, and we got some kiddos over here in the corner reading a book with the teacher. And then this one right here would be your variation in assignments. This is a poster board project. So lastly, these might be some scenarios that you are thinking about. I only lecture. How do I get out of this cycle?